Hello, Ryan McGough, the bodybuilding businessman and entrepreneur. And I'm coming to you with a video about Telecom today as I drink a little coffee. And I'm not going to do the big setup this time with the microphone and all that. I'm just going to do a quick phone recording and just a quick update because I have to remember to give back. I was just explaining this to somebody at the gym today. I was saying if I ask for things, hey, I need partners, I need people in my business, I need to raise money, right? If I haven't given away and helped and put a lot of content out, I'm just a stranger, and imagine a stranger coming up to you on the street asking you for things, right? It doesn't come from a place. So I have to remember to put out content to help you guys, to tell you what's going on in my business, in my world. And as a result, then I can bring partners on, I can ask for things because I have given out value, right? I'm not a stranger anymore. I'm somebody who's actively participating in everybody getting better, everybody moving into the right direction of success. And when I talk about the things that I went through, the struggles, the challenges, where we're at, the strategies, all of it, right? It helps me work on it and come to it from a different mindset and a different perspective at the same time. So it is very much important for me to keep putting content out, keep helping, right? So this is about Telecom, right? So I've been talking a little bit recently. We wanted to go from the original contracts that a company gets when they're starting out, which is to reach out family, friends, whoever, right? Subcontracts, small roles. A lot of times these are not the roles that people want to take, right? They're very much we're in trouble kind of roles, which is fine because you need to have income coming in, right? But as the income from real estate has kind of supplemented our telecom side, at first it was the telecom side supplementing the real estate side. So now the real estate side is supplementing the telecom side. So it allows us to jump from being subs. We got our first prime that was called the Martin Building in DC, which was $1 billion project, one of the biggest construction renovations in DC. We put our name as the cellular, the radio, and the public safety integrator. So we were the prime cellular, the prime wireless integrator, right? We had a low voltage contract. It was from the low voltage company, it was down to us. We were then that prime that had everything to do with cellular, radio, and public safety radio, right? Which is where the emergency responders can get into the building and utilize their radios. So in different cities, towns, ordinances, states, they have different frequency bands that they use. Some use a 400 megahertz band, right? The lower bands, they emit a lot farther. DC uses a 700, 800 band. That's regulated by the FCC, all of that. So it's very code-driven systems, right? Where I've done a lot of these systems. I started out doing these, and I did the first one in 2018, where Washington, DC, and it was my first inspection, right? The company that I was working for said, yeah, you just go out there, they come in with radios, just key up, easy, right? And I hadn't had much public safety experience. I had cellular experience, right? But just on the infrastructure side, not on the commissioning engineering side. And so I went into this inspection and they gave me this document, which is the DC, now the DC OUC, right, is the one that mandates the DC inspections. And it was a packet. I mean, just, you need to provide this information, what's the site that you're using, what's the azimuth of this site, right? What's your downlink power, what's your uplink power, like screenshot of all the program channels, right? And it has to be a certain type of spacing between the channels. It has to be a class A system as opposed to a class B system. So just all of these crazy things and regulations, and I mean tests you wouldn't even believe, a near far test to but the tests are doing two things. They're testing the power in the building. They're also testing from the building to the macro tower, which is the tower that transmits and receives signal. It's testing the impact to this macro site, because the macro site, just like an exponent, right, has all of these other sites that are attached to it. So it's literally exponentially more powerful, all of these sites that hit it. So you have to test the building to make sure it's not overpowering and noisy and transmitting a bad signal. Then it also needs to connect to this macro site and make sure when it powers up, the impact to the macro site is not detrimental to that. So, and I love this stuff. I can talk about this stuff all day, right? But so that was in 2018, I got to do the first test, and they sent me this packet and I read through it, figured it out, stumbled through it, right? And so since 2018, I've been passing sites in the DC left and right, because I know their standards. I know exactly what numbers we need to hit. I know it's too hot. I know it's not hot enough, right? So all of this as an expert helped me to win this contract, right? And so, but after that, that was the last one we had finished. And then we got a few little small ones, some low voltage jobs here and there. And so we decided we wanted to be more of a prime. We wanted to go after prime contracts, bigger contracts. We wanted to win and have our name on that. And the reason being is because we want to be, on the forefront of the changing wireless infrastructure, of the changing wireless forefront, right? And what that means is a more powerful wireless infrastructure and signal, right? Kind of like what Elon Musk is doing with Starlink, right? We said, okay, the wireless infrastructure for broadband is weak, right? We don't have much of a powerful wireless broadband signal, right? The best option you're going to get is on average, downlink 200, megabits per second. And even at, my house where I was in Harper's Ferry, right, for example, I could use Cox Communications or Xfinity, I think it was Xfinity actually, but you can have 300 megabits download speed, right? And that's at your, with a coax router. So it's not even fiber. So some of these wireless infrastructure options that are out there, they're really not that powerful, right? On average, they may be powerful in a certain area and not in other areas. So, we want to be on this wireless forefront in changing, just like Starlink, like that type of idea where you can get more power direct that's in the air, right? Not by pulling more fiber, not by the options that we have out there, but newer options, more concentrated options, right? And that's kind of what we focus on. And what I also a benefit of that is, for example, we have private networks, private LTE. So some of these options on the private LTE space allowed you to have a fully secure infrastructure and a fully secure wireless signal that you own into your building. So that's on the forefront of what we want to be on. We want to be on the private network, on the secure network, security in the hardware of the network, right? Into that kind of stuff. So that's where we want to be. We have a future dream, right? Which is to build the first wireless buildings, to build the first fully secure wireless buildings, right? Build the first fully secure wireless broadband infrastructure. So we have some big goals and some big dreams, right? And so being a third tier sub, right, is not going to get us to where we want to be. And I've talked a lot about that. That was the last one, the last video, switching from a sub to a prime, right? And what has to happen there. And we've projected and we understand that there's going to be a drop in business in going to the primes. We have to get our documentation correct, our solicitation documents. We have to get some of our, government codes and that kind of stuff. And so we're in the process of doing that while we're continuing to send out bids, while we're continuing to build relationships, right? So we know where we want to be. We know it's going to take a loss in a little bit of a loss in business and income, right, for the beginning of this year. We sent a lot of bids out, and we've been working. We've got a lot of new customers, a lot of new relationships that are built. So now it's just a pipeline of estimates into those estimates that are won, right, into us being in the in the runnings of those. So it's a little bit longer of a process than it was before. We're fully engaged in that. What I'm gonna talk about a little bit now is being in the arena, right? And I don't just mean in the arena in like we're sending estimates and we're checking government bids and solicitations and that kind of thing, right? Yes, that's one thing, right? But visibility beats experience any day, right? And this is why I'm out here with all of these videos and stuff too, because being visible, being actively in the eye and mind, in the line of sight and the minds of people, right? And this is not a new thing. This was Napoleon Hill said it in one of his books about sales. He said there's another type of sales, right? Which is that you stay in a good public opinion of the people at all times, and you can sell your product that way. Now we are moving to a dynamic where that very much is how you sell, right? I mean, a lot of who I've worked for in the past, they sell off relationships and have really good relationships with their customers, right? But I very much do believe in being marketing and actively being in front of the ones who are making those decisions and being actively in front of a network, right? And staying in touch with the network about certain things. Now, a lot of what I do and stay in touch with and build a network around is real estate, right? As we transition in my real estate business to going from flipping houses, now we transition to flipping 3 houses per quarter. Now we're transitioning to multifamily, and we're we're doing 4 multifamily projects this upcoming year. 50 plus units. We have our first one under contract at 62 units, but I'll talk a little bit about that. Now, why is that important? What would I be saying that has to do with real estate, being around people who are capital raising, who are talking to and in front of capital partners and contract negotiations and due diligence, right? And so these type of things have opened my eyes up to another industry, to another part of the industry that I'm already in that maybe in the same way of thinking big in terms of real estate, should I be thinking big in terms of telecom? And what I mean by that is being in the right rooms, in the right situations, and around the right people, right? For telecom, for real estate, has put me into the same rooms with business buyers, with people that are doing due diligence and looking to acquire cash flow in businesses. So in these same rooms that I'm in to talk about big real estate deals, I'm talking about buying businesses. What are the numbers that you're looking at? Now, I know a lot of what these numbers of a healthy business are at sub 1 million, at 1 million plus, at 2 million to 5 million, right? There's plenty of books out there. Profit First is a great book which tells you what the correct CapEx, expenditures, materials and subs, profit, owner's draw, I think that's all of them right there. And CapEx, if I didn't say that already, but what a successfully operating business is. And I take my numbers out of that, and I know what healthy numbers my company needs to be at, right? To be there. But what I'm saying is, as I'm in these rooms, I know what it takes to run a healthy business from the operation side, right? So I have a asset that I can bring to the table, right? And now the other side of things is being in these rooms. Somebody presented me recently with an opportunity to buy a broadband business that is for sale for about X million dollars, right? That is essentially, and with the loan to purchase it at that X million dollar statement, would be at a loss for a few years, but then would transition out of the loss. So it allows me to think on a bigger scale, like, is going bigger the safer move when it comes to going into to being in a place where you can compete from a prime perspective? Do you need that backing? Do you need that immediate, government socioeconomic status? Do you need that, boots on the ground, the VP of sales, the VP of operations, right? A flowing business in terms of the positions and the pieces, along with trucks, rent, all of these different things, right? Because they operate in a different state. So them operating in that state with these numbers, right? Which I know healthy numbers, I could help them get to that point, but do we expand them up to the north? And now we, as going after these projects that maybe don't have the type of credibility or size to take on some of these general contracting contracts, because some of them have a lot of terms in there, bond status, right? We don't have the bond status, right? We usually exempt bonding. Some of these other big things like retainage or damages, liquidated damages at $100,000 a day. So some of these things make it so these general contractors are not just getting some rookie, young company to step up and go and win some of these big projects, because the company that they can win the bid has all of these long-term established relationships and has the capital to do it. And I don't blame them for that. I totally understand that. Now, any project we've done a successful job on, and we did the best that we could. And some were set up projects that just the contracts didn't work and didn't look right. And some, we took them and did a successful thing at the numbers that we had. So we've always won in terms of what we've produced, right? From our standpoint and from the standpoint of turning over a successful project. But, just instantly walking into a fully formed broadband business, pulling miles of fiber with contracts, with salespeople, and just pulling a little piece of that, or adding our company, the pieces we have to that, and then hitting the DC metro area where we're located, right? Where they're down in the Carolinas, for example. So there's this idea of just instantly, if you're going to assume the debt, and all that it's really going to be is a few $100,000 of a down payment, right? Is that risk of getting the company at a debt, right, a good enough solution to, if you were going to put $300,000 to $500,000 into your company or into our company right now, would it pay off as much as being the down payment on, plus X amount of $1 million into debt to get and acquire all these pieces, the assets, the contracts, all of that, the relationships, right? The salespeople, all of that, and just direct them to anywhere and add to the sales team, train the sales team, cut out some of the fat that's not quite necessary, because they're very much boots on the ground. Everybody's there at the office. Everybody, they have all those VPs, all that stuff like that. Their CapEx is probably a little high, to be honest. And I think bringing some remote positions in. I'm the other way around. Very lean. We do a lot of remote work. We have only the bare essential pieces, because in the first few years of starting a company, you want to run lean. So they're in this 5+ years where they're not lean, and I'm very much remote and use what you can, outsource. And so, not to say that I'm all of that, but I'm in the mind of keeping lean and staying lean and cutting certain costs, and they're in the running fat and just bringing people on. So could be a very good mix. Of course, there's the debt component of that in the millions, and would, after 2 years of doing some successful projects, be safe to just go big and say, okay, well now, right, we're going to acquire a company and just go and take that on and acquire the debt, acquire that. But do I bet on myself, right, as somebody who could successfully take this company because I know people, I read about people, I study, how to be a better manager, how to motivate people, how to talk to people. And I write business models in my businesses that are cutting edge, that are focused on productivity, efficiency, all that, right? Would I put it to the test without building my company to that point and just acquiring it and having these new people on as our company, as a acquisition of that company, right? And immediately just have double the size, triple the size, probably triple the incoming contracts, triple the debt, triple all of it, right? But is going bigger essentially a smarter move because you now have the pieces in place to go expand to the DC metro area, to expand into new territories, right? And so it's a good thought. It's a very interesting thing that I'm thinking of, and a very interesting opportunity, an interesting place to be at by being in the right rooms, not even specifically for telecom, but in being in the multifamily real estate rooms where people are talking about multi-million-dollar acquisitions with sponsors and doing due diligence on these, numbers, profits and loss, T12s, all that. And so now I'm suddenly doing all these same due diligence things that we've done in real estate on the acquisition of a company, with a LOI at 60 days due diligence and then 60 days closing. So it's just interesting when you're in the room with successful people that you pay to get into, that however you get in, of sponsors, of allowing you to go bigger on a real estate level, that this has now allowed us to be in a place of business acquisitions and the same type of contracts and the same type of number running as to what's healthy. And being in the telecom side and knowing how to do the business, do the work, right, allows me that operational standpoint to know what's successful, to know how to treat customers and how to succeed there. Now puts me in a place that I have the telecom knowledge and abilities to manage a company, and I know the financial and the due diligence type of stuff and the financial, let's say the law plus the law due diligence, right? The legal due diligence, along with the financial due diligence, along with the company due diligence, the operations and that. So I know the few different components of researching and creating and being a successful company and what that looks like, that now puts me in a place where I'm able to do that stuff. So it's just interesting to have the conversation of, we have to just grow and boots on the ground and whatever, to now, maybe I could just take some capital, right? Because I'm raising capital for real estate, and then even one up that and just say, why don't we just acquire someone who's already doing it and just immediately put ourselves in a place to be a player in that industry, in that game. So very interesting about being at whatever cost, getting into the rooms of where people are talking about buying businesses and running numbers and that kind of thing. So just interesting to be in a place and communicate and build relationships and networks that somebody even is like saying to me, hey, listen, we want to build this and buy this company, and you might make sense as an operator, right? And so how do we partner up and take on this acquisition, right? What's our components? What's our scope of works? And how do we successfully do that and make a team that could acquire a already successful business, put you and your company in the place of ownership, of operations, and now turn this thing into a multi-million-dollar asset that's poised to go out and kind of do this dream and path that you're looking into doing already, the company already has infrastructure, people, all of the different things that you need to go out and do it. So super cool to even think about this, to be in this type of place, to even have these kind of conversations, to be in a room where people are talking and thinking about it, and to not even feel like it's too much for me, but to say, okay, yeah, we just locked up our first 62 unit, multi-million-dollar complex, and we're doing due diligence on that. But yeah, this is a possibility and a good fit actually for what we're trying to do and where we want to be. Yeah, let's run the numbers on it. I feel confident in not only my ability to make this a successful company, but I feel confident in even saying, let's lock up a multi-million-dollar company acquisition contract. And I feel confident enough to know what kind of numbers I'm looking at, if we're healthy or not, or if that debt is taking on too much risk, from a negative standpoint. It's going to be too hard to get them in the positive, along with the financing costs and all of that. So with what they're bringing in. So it's cool to run high level numbers like that, and even be in a place to take on and feel confident in running those numbers and in looking at that, and actually feel confident, like we're not wasting anybody's time. We're actually gonna see if we can make this work. And if the numbers do come back, right, then we're gonna do it. We're gonna purchase it. We're gonna win. We're gonna have them succeed. We're gonna grow them up to DC. We're gonna move, ourselves from there to here, and have the infrastructure and have the people. And we're gonna go out and get more contracts because we have the backing of a bigger company that's done that can sign those contracts that we might not have been able to sign. So, thinking from just doing the projects to thinking of, funding ourselves to be a bigger player, to potentially making acquisitions that allow us the ability to compete in a much bigger arena. But because of the relationships that I've made, I'm actually able to take on some of these things, or to have the backing and support and sponsorships to purchase something like that, when I myself would probably not be able to, because I haven't been in the business long enough. So just another testament to being in the right rooms, building the right networks, and building the right relationships.